One of the big perks, the exciting things that happened to me when I was working on Chisholms was I got to do a little scene with a guy that I had admired for years. He was a great stuntman. His name was Henry Wills. Now, Henry Wills was not just a stuntman, he was a stunt coordinator. He had been on so many different productions. He'd been in the movies since back in the 30s. When I was a kid, he worked with all the great heroes of the guys that I loved the most, the guys that I went to see on Saturday morning at the movies. Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Hopalong Cassidy, all the heroes. He knew them all and worked with them all. And he had been in the movies for decades. He was a stunt coordinator on Nevada Smith. He was a stunt coordinator on High Chaparral. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But anyway, it was very exciting for me to get to work with Henry on Chisholms. And here's a little scene that we did. In fact, Henry was in the last scene where he's the guy that throws a punch he's the guy that Robert Preston knocks down in the fight scene that we just did. So anyway, here's a little scene that I did with Henry.
The thing that shrivels my skin is what them Chisholms is planning on. They're actually going to take that squaw west with them in their wagon.
If she lives. This particular scene was shot while we were still at Bent's Fort. But later on, after I rejoined the cast and crew in L.A., I had a day off, and I gave a stuntman buddy of mine a call who lived over there, Neil Summers. So we got together for lunch, and I told him that I was working with a good friend of his on Chisholms, and he said, "Well, who's that, Henry Wills?" And I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He said, "Well, I knew that Henry was the stunt coordinator on Chisholms." And he says, "In fact, later on today, I'm going to go over to Henry's house. He said, you want to go with me?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so him and I went over to Henry's house. And Henry, he was such a nice man, a gentleman. He introduced me to his wife, and we had a great time over there. But Henry, he's no longer with us, but he's a legend in the movie business. And I'm so glad that I got to know him and work with him. It was one of the highlights of my movie career. I want to thank a friend of mine, Eric LeBlanc. Now Eric, he lives in France, and what Eric does is he's a translator, and he translates American films and television into French. And he has an extensive film library. And so I got a hold of Eric by email and told him that I wanted to make a video of my remembrances of working on the TV show Chisholms, and asked him if he by chance had any clips of it. And so just about every clip that I've shown in this video, Eric sent me. So thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.